Hello traders, and welcome back to another Sunday video where we go over trading setups for the week ahead, and I also will usually go through my own positions, my own trading performance, etc. I use this as kind of a weekly journal and game plan for the week ahead. So welcome back. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe so you can stick around for more of this in the future, and let's jump into it. Okay, so the dollar index is where I'd like to start here today. The dollar index continues to be under pressure. Now, if you have been watching along with us for a while, we've kept a close note on this downward channel that seems to be going on from a price action standpoint. And my idea recently has been be very careful trying to catch a bottom here on the dollar index. A lot of traders are out there thinking, hey, this thing has run a little bit too far to the downside. Let's see if we can catch a reversal. And in my opinion, the most likely path for the dollar index, if you had to ask me which way is it going, down. And now I know that's, of course, a very simplified view just because I'm saying, well, its momentum is down, but it's also a lot of fundamental factors, not just the technicals, right? The fundamentals basically being that it does seem like inflation is cooling, and that for now, it does seem that the economy in the U.S. is relaxing a little bit, which is giving the Federal Reserve a little bit more room to not necessarily need to rate hike anymore. Now, a lot of this dollar bullishness that we've seen this year, the second half of this year especially, has been the idea that inflation is not getting taken care of and that the interest rates are just going to keep going up and up and up. That was a massive driver for the dollar, but now we saw the Fed kind of change its tone. Inflation's cooling off. The economy seems to be relaxing. All of those things combined, in my opinion, lend to a bigger dollar push lower. Now, you might be asking, Nick, where is it going? Well, perhaps it's not too out of the question to see sentiment shifting here, and with that, to continue to see the dollar head back down to a previous low, such as the 99.7 level. Sounds kind of crazy, but remember that on the long-term basis, currencies tend to go sideways. They don't typically, just massively trend one way forever. But however, so when you talk about, we've had this big push on interest rate fears, and now it seems to be the opposite. My idea going into 2024 is the dollar likely for the time being continues lower, and things like treasury bonds, U.S. equities, they typically, and gold all seem to have kind of a bias to go bullish, to continue to push higher. So that's going to kind of be my game plan loosely as we enter the end of the year phase. So for the dollar index, that's where I'm at with it. And let me also show you guys, I've been, rewarded here for some of my patience in this year because, and when I say that, I don't say it lightly. This was a very tough period of time for me the last few months where I went through a pretty sizable drawdown. And then recently we've had a really nice play on the S&P 500. I'll show you that trade in just a moment. But I show this for the purpose of transparency and also just to kind of go through my own trading performance because I think it could be helpful to other people. If you find this helpful, like when I talk about my trading performance and the drawdowns and the risk management that I have to do to stay in the game, let me know in the comment section. But anyways, we are up a total of 148%. This is a period of about 3 years. About 3 years. And so we're going into the end of the year strong. We'll see if we can hold on to it, but it's been a good year overall with some hiccups along the way. But 2023 overall has been a really nice year. Most of this has been bullishness on gold and the NASDAQ and the S&P. A lot of that has been trading in and out of that, and I'll show you one of those trades as we speak. Let me just pull this up. So we'll go SPY. So this is my trade that is still on, by the way. For those of you who are regular viewers of the channel, you've probably seen me talk about this thing a lot. We're still in the S&P 500 trade that we picked up at the very beginning of November due to seasonality. Now, if you don't know what seasonality is, check this out. So if I go over to seasonality on the Edge Finder, which is our market scanning software, check this out. The seasonality table is going to show you month to month what historically an asset's price typically does. Now, of course, this is not a perfect indicator of the future. I wish it was that easy, but it is a nice confluence tool that on November 1st, I looked closely at and I said, hey, you know what? November, historically in the last 10 years, is a very strong year. And so if we know that that is likely to be the case this year, I went long, not solely because of that. I also liked some technical setups, and I also liked some other, COT factors at the time. And so a nice bullish expectation actually played out beautifully. And if we look closely at December, notice that it's also a meaningfully bullish month as well. So my goal is to try and stay in this trade as well as I can. I'm trailing a stop, and I'm going to try and see if I can hold this into the new year. We'll see if the market lets me do that, because if we get a big reversal, that's going to trail me out. That's my exit plan when it comes to my trading strategy. I like to trail stops to let winners run as much as possible. So I am still in the S&P 500 trade. This was shared inside of our VIP Discord. And while I'm on the subject, let's talk about, I've got this pulled up here. Let's take a look at one of the other factors that's actually been bullish. We added this, by the way. This is the new COT indicator on the Edge Finder. It shows you COT over time in detail, and I absolutely love it. So check this out. This is the S&P 500, and one of the things that I've noticed this year is, look at this. We've had an overall shift from, this is of course tracking smart money, big money, what they're doing, what they're buying, what they're selling. Overall, we've seen a nice trend, not just a one-time spike, but a trend of bearishness on the S&P 500 all the way into a pretty neutral state that we sit today. Now, this, of course, is maybe not, an outright huge bullish signal by itself, but this gradual change of shorts being basically squeezed out of their positions and perhaps even getting long now is a huge change that I really wanted to keep close tabs on. You take a look at this as well. This is, of course, probably the most popular page on the Edge Finder. It is the COT Smart Money Tracker. Now, this page will show you some cool stuff. If you take a look at this, you can see on the top hand here, we have the COT's net positioning tool. Now, this shows you in terms of overall positioning where money is bullish or bearish. And so, for example, you have like the NASDAQ 50-50, the euro, for those of you who are currency traders, 66% long, gold 72% long, USD 78% long. So Nick, is it just the best idea is just to stay long these assets and short these assets? Not necessarily. Let me show you something else. Now, this section of the COT report that we have on the Edge Finder is a nice summary of the long-term positioning of institutional money, because this shows you that long-term, they have been, by the way, this signal has been the exact same. The yen has been super, super bearish by institutional money for like a year and a half now. So if, it is a very, very long-term kind of slow signal. What's a faster signal for perhaps the day traders and the swing traders out there is this data right here. The latest smart money buys. These are buys and sells. The latest trades here basically show you on a asset by asset basis, everything from gold to Bitcoin to the Canadian dollar to the US dollar. It shows you the weekly shift in money flow. And what we can see is the far right-hand column is what we really want to pay attention to. Check this out. So with this, we can see that the euro had a nice bullish flow this past week. You also had silver. You also had USD, South African Rand, interestingly, CAD, Bitcoin, SPX. These are kind of our bullish, positive benefactors or beneficiaries of the COT report. And then you can flip it around. You can take a look. Let's look at the other side of the equation. For example, let's close in on platinum, CHF, NASDAQ. These ones have had really big negative outflows, bearish outflows, GBP, Kiwi, and yen. All of these things, what you'll see is these are assets that are being sold in the latest filing by institutional money. So what I would encourage you to do, for those of you who do have the Edge Finder already, I like to look at like the top 5 or 6 on either side. So these are like the biggest sells. Basically, I like to use, anecdotally, I like the heat map here that we've got. The blue ones are the ones worth noting, right? And the red ones are also worth noting. So I wouldn't pay too close attention to anything under like a 2% shift, really. So otherwise, I think it's just kind of a negligible change. But if it's a significant change, it's worth noting. So this has me a little concerned about the NASDAQ. I am not long the NASDAQ at this time, but we can pull up the NAS 100. We'll also take a look at gold in a moment. But look at this. So, perhaps a little bit of money taking profits here is a bit concerning. However, I wouldn't just say, sell it outright just because the COT report. That's why we have the top setups algorithm. Top setups algorithm basically takes into account the COT report, but it also looks at retail positioning, seasonal trends like we looked at earlier, momentum in the market, economy or economic data. This is, of course, GDP, PMI numbers, inflation, CPI, PPI, labor statistics like NFP, or of course, for other countries, unemployment percentages, etc., and interest rates. So the Edge Finder takes into consideration a ton of stuff and creates, with this algorithm that it's got, a bullish or bearish reading for various assets, currency pairs, etc. So I do want to mention, while I'm on the subject, that we are currently ending our Black Friday sale very, very soon. And down below in the description, if you're somebody who's watched the channel for a while, if you're somebody who's been thinking about getting a copy, let me just give you a fair warning. This 40% offer is ending very, very soon. You have a few days left. If you are interested in getting a copy of the Edge Finder, go ahead and get yourself a copy. The link is down below in the description. Use that promo code YTVIP on your screen right now, and that will allow you to get access to the software. And heads up, it is a one-time fee, so it's not something that you have to pay monthly for. It's not a subscription service. And the reason that I've done it that way is because personally, if I'm just speaking from my own consumer habits, I really dislike recurring fees. I don't like, it's like, from an investor standpoint, I don't like the idea of over and over paying for something. I like the idea of like paying for it once, I can account for it, and then it's like, okay, move on. And so I've set up most of our softwares to be that way. They're not recurring fees. They're one-off fees. You pay for the service, you pay for the software, and you're in there. And by the way, while we're on the subject, of course, our VIP group is also available if you'd like to work closer with Frank and myself. Again, take advantage of those Black Friday, Cyber Monday discounts that are down below in the description, and you'll be able to save significant money on anything that we offer in our store. And by the way, some people have already taken us up on our offer to get copies of the software or Discord. Just a big shout out and hello to you. Thank you for joining us, and I look forward to going into the new year with you. So let's take a look now at gold. So gold is, of course, a really hot topic right now. If you have been in our Telegram channel, we've talked a lot about this idea here that we found support, that this head and shoulders was a temporary kind of holding point for gold's price, and now we've started to see this rally prolong itself. Now, I think that in my personal opinion, I can't claim that I was quote unquote right or wrong because I didn't take any trades. But if you've watched along, you know that I've been pretty bullish on gold now for the last several days. And my thought process with gold now is when I watch a lot of analysts and stuff on YouTube, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll always speak in hindsight and never talk about future plans. I try not to do that because I find that kind of frustrating. My thought process with gold is that watch this area. I mean, if we get the breakout, that to me looks very clean. Now, you could reject this area, which could enter us into more of a range-bound market. So I'm not saying necessarily that it's going to break out, but if it breaks out, then I think we have a ball game on our hands, right? I think it's an American expression. I'm not even sure if that's an American expression, but the idea here is if we actually truly get a break and close outside of where we failed previously, I'm very interested in gold on the long side, and I want to actually show you something. So gold is getting a neutral reading here because the COT data actually came out kind of bearish for it this past week. So we might need to wait a little bit, and this might be a signal for like next week if the COT data comes in a little bit more bullish. But again, we are seeing kind of a neutral reading. So that's going to keep me, what has kept me from being long gold is, the COT has been a little bit sketchy. And so I don't want to necessarily be buying something that institutional money is saying like, yeah, not right here, right? So if they're selling, I'm going to kind of be on the pause side. But from a technical analysis perspective, I'd like to see a breakout, potentially pullback, and that could be a nice continuation play into the end of the year. I think, you look at the situation, fundamentally, gold makes a lot of sense to be bullish, in my opinion. You have an environment in which real rates are falling. That's, of course, the idea that the difference between interest rates when you remove the effect of inflation, that environment typically has been bullish for gold. And so that's seemingly the environment that we're entering in, and I'm watching for that to flare up into a setup for me. So I'm watching very closely on gold. Let's take a look now at the pound USD coming in bullish. I can't even remember the last time I got a bullish reading on the edge finder for the pound. It's been a while, and this is a beautiful chart. I mean, this makes a lot of sense. First of all, you can see from the scoring here, COT did kind of hold us back here, which is always a little bit alarming, right? Whoops, let me not do that. Let me just go back to highest score. So COT was not super impressive, but everything else seems to be favoring a nice sell the dollar, buy the pound kind of effect. And so this is why I mentioned COT is not everything for me. It is a major component to the scoring algorithm that the Edge Finder employs, but this is a beautiful chart. It makes a lot of sense that, again, kind of macro fundamentally, I like this thing predominantly long. Think about if I'm long the S&P 500, pound dollar oftentimes is going to see a general appreciation in that environment as well, because it's a risk asset, right? The pound versus the dollar, which one's riskier? It's going to be the pound, right? So typically riskier things typically do well alongside the stock market. Not always, and it's not a perfect science like that, but here's my thought process with the pound here. So we've had a nice, clean, higher low, higher high kind of concept going on. And if price does pull back, you might actually have a nice opportunity to get a good risk to reward trade going here. What I'm talking about is look at this thing on, the longer term. It's had a beating, and so it's probably due for more squeeze to the upside. That's why I think that you could probably get some good risk to reward here. And I'll show you in terms of targets. This would kind of make sense in terms of a shorter term target. Now, I'm talking perhaps the next month or so, several weeks. But the pound USD here pulling back, if we were to see something in which case you got a entry here, and let's say you put your stop just below the 61.8, look at the risk to reward to that projection compared to where we are currently sitting. I mean, that is a 4-to-1 approximately. So something like a pullback, some reaction at this area could get me into a trade, and I actually really like the pound USD on the long side. I'm going to be watching that trade myself. That is definitely a potential entry for me. While we're on the topic of pound pairs, I do already have pound CAD long. I am still in this trade. I trailed this stop, and we are still in this trade as of the end of the week. Of course, I'm recording this on a weekend, but my next game plan is going to be to trail stops further as this market has still made a nice push. We're holding resistance here currently, and that makes me a little bit concerned. If price does break back underneath this area, I'm going to be trailing out, and this signal is still running inside of the VIP group. So actually, let me show you that real quick. Okay, so I'm taking a look here at the Discord, and what you can see is this has been a trade for me for a while. We've been in pound CAD for several days now. This one has just been a nice runner through the holiday period as well. I trailed my stop here, and I barely stayed in this trade. Let me show you this. I screenshot it because I was out and about with my family, but I was like, oh my gosh, look how much we barely survived. The trade is still live, but absolutely barely hung on to it this past week. But again, my goal with pound CAD, stay in the trade and try and see if I can let that one continue to run, but I need to probably trail my stop a little bit, lock in a little bit more on this position so far. So that is probably what I will do around market open here. So keep a close eye. If you're inside of the VIP group, it'll be shared inside of the Forex trades channels. Of course, Frank, Ivan, and I, we share our Forex trades, indices trades. The notorious S&P trade was shared here. Commodities trade, gold and oil, stocks. I do a little bit of options trading as well. And then, of course, Frank does the same. Ivan does the same. So if you'd like access to that, just a heads up. Again, it is the last call on the Cyber Monday, Black Friday sale. It is currently 40% off with that code YTVIP down below in the description. So come join us if you have not already. We'd love to hang out with you, meet with you. We've taken, and I say this is probably something I'm the most proud of inside of our VIP group. We have taken so many traders from relative beginners to putting them in this environment where they can learn. And we don't do all the work for you. And I don't ever want to kind of claim that we just make you profitable, right? Because nobody can just make you profitable. You have to work hard. But we've created an environment inside of our Discord where a lot of traders have gone from you know, small trading accounts, not knowing what they're doing, to a lot of people have learned a ton. They've really explored back testing, and they've read through the trades that are being shared and start to understand why. And they've gone through our strategy library, right? So you can go through our strategies and the coaching webinars that Ivan does, and he answers individual questions. All of those things, we've seen a lot of traders go from small accounts to not making any money to losing money to turning them into, with of course their hard work, funded traders, people who have been here with us for years, who are now trading much larger accounts and doing great with it. It's a very cool thing to see, and I love getting those messages. I get them periodically from people, and I know I'm sounding like, you know, Nick, you're kind of hyping yourself up, but genuinely, it is a very cool experience. As you can probably imagine, if you know, you create this Discord with a couple fellow traders and you see people really picking themselves up and really improving their trading, it's a very, very cool thing. And I don't claim all that credit. We have a wonderful team of people, and people who are joining this Discord oftentimes are serious traders themselves. We tend to attract a little bit more of a dedicated crowd on my channel, which I'm very proud of. And that is typically just because we don't do all the, you know, the Lambo lifestyle stuff. It's none of that. So again, I do genuinely think that if you are not already in there, it is a major help tool. If you're somebody who is looking for the right community, looking to learn stuff, it's the place to be. So let me do dollar yen as well while I'm on the subject. Dollar yen completely stalled out. This engine was roaring. It completely stalled out. Now what you can see here is that it seems like we potentially have a bit of a reversal on our hands. Now you do kind of have this that's a little bit concerning. You had this support level that held, but now price pulling back. My opinion here is that this indestructible uptrend that seems to be kind of losing its steam, and fundamentally I'm not necessarily super convinced that the dollar just breaks clean through the highs right away. In my opinion, most likely path for this is to continue lower. And the reason for that is, again, the fundamental layout that we started this video with the US dollar. So I think that, in my opinion, if you're looking at the dollar yen, the path of least resistance is to go back and retest 147.14. We'll see if that ends up being the correct idea, but I think we probably go back there and possibly even break and go lower. And again, I'm a trend follower, so I don't necessarily predict, oh, it's going to hit this price by this date. I don't do all that. I think that the trend here has cracked, so I'm going to look for bearish setups. I don't know how far it's going to go, but my goal would be to try and trail a stop and let it run as much as possible. However, I do have a filter for trades that I do and don't take. If we flip it around here, you can see dollar yen is a neutral reading. So I wouldn't actually short the dollar yen because I don't get the signal from the edge finder. I like to have as much confirmation in my trades as possible, so I don't trade stuff typically unless I don't take new entries unless I'm getting a nice confirmation from the edge finder that tells me the fundamentals and the commitment of traders data, etc., are leaning in my favor. That is, of course, where I like to be. So euro yen could actually be one to take a closer look at. So euro yen, beautiful chart here, really nice momentum to the upside. There isn't a pullback present, but if it does start to pull back, or if it breaks and cleans the highs, right? So boom, boom, I like that trade quite a bit, and I'll watch for that. Yes, it seems high, but momentum is a funny thing. As soon as everybody thinks it's gone too high, that's when it explodes higher. And so I love momentum trading for that purpose. You just need to be technical in your approach and manage your risk appropriately. So euro yen pullback trades could be interesting if we go back to retest this area. I'm pretty much interested in euro yen both on a pullback here or a break and retest here. Both of those scenarios I do like for possible trend continuation setups, and I'll watch that closely. And on the flip side, I should mention also that the US oil market as well could be worth mentioning. So US oil, I tried to short this once. I got stopped out on it. So if this does retest this area, I may try again, but otherwise I may have missed the trade. So we'll watch for that. Euro yen possible setup, pound dollar possible setup, and oil possible setup. So if I take those trades, of course, you'll see them inside of Discord. And if, again, you would like to take advantage of that Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale on the Edge Finder or the VIP, all of the information will be down below in the description. Thank you guys very much for tuning in to today's video. If you enjoyed it, smash that thumbs up button, and we will see you back next time.